Hey everybody, Diane Haggerty, Grassroots Taxes. Today we're talking about the Paycheck Protection Program and how to get it forgiven. Because remember, it's really not free government money. It's a Small Business Administration loan, and you're gonna have to fill out another whole set of paperwork to get the loan forgiven. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about what things you can do today to make sure it all gets forgiven before the loan period is over. Okay. How do you get the forgiveness? You need to file the application with your lender. The application came out last week. It is 11 pages and it made my head spin. I thought IRS forms were bad. Oh no, this one's bad. And it requires a lot of documentation. All your payroll tax forms, your payroll journal, every check you wrote. They want to see all the checks you wrote and deposits to state unemployment insurance, health insurance, whatever it is you pay that you're getting forgiven. You need to have check stubs and everything for that. Okay, when do you file this? Probably after you file your second quarter payroll forms in July. It is highly unlikely that you will have enough documentation before the end of July. So not super hurry, but there is things you can do now to make sure it all gets forgiven then. Okay, what gets forgiven? Payroll, health insurance, retirement plan contributions that you were already making, and state unemployment insurance. Remember, this does not include FICA, so the 7.65% that you pay on behalf of your employees towards Social Security and Medicare, you are on the hook for that, but that's not bad for 8 weeks of payroll. Okay, what payroll? A lot of questions I've had is which pay period? What do I do? How does this work? Okay, so it's the covered period. Covered period starts with the day you got your deposit and goes for 56 days. Alternatively, and I don't know why you'd want to do the alternative one unless you're making up some slack at the end, the alternative covered period is the first day of your first period that starts after your deposit. You can start there, but it's a continuous 56 days, 8 weeks after that. Okay, all the payroll you paid during that 56-day period and all the payroll that was also earned and not yet paid, but paid on the next regularly scheduled payday is included. So say you got your money on a Tuesday, payday was Friday for the previous 2 weeks. Guess what? That 2 weeks payroll is included in there. So when you got that 2.5 months of payroll, it's not so bad. It seems like it's going to extend over more than one period of time here. So it will be more than just 8 paychecks. Because it's also the money that's earned that you haven't paid yet at the end. I know it's a little confusing, but we're going to have to look at a calendar, and I don't have the capability to do that right here. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the application, not go over it line by line, just so you know how confusing it is. It starts with wanting, on the very first line, payroll costs from Schedule A, line 10. So you find Schedule A, you find line 10, what's the first thing on there? Next thing you know, oh, well, we need from Schedule A worksheet, Table 1. Okay, let me break it down. There's 2 tables. There's separating people into 2 categories. One is people that worked for you during the covered period, also during 2019, and were paid over $100,000. Okay, that's probably few, if any, of your people. They go in Table 2. Table 1 is everybody else that worked for you in the covered period. And what you need to do is make sure that what they earned during your covered period has to be at least 75% of what they earned January to March of this year. So you cannot average it out. So if they were part-time people and they work 15 hours a week, make sure they're working at least 12 now. Make sure they're getting paid for at least 12 now. They don't have to work all the hours. You do have to pay them 75%. If you do not pay them 75% on a person-by-person basis, if you do not pay them 75% of what they earned in January, February, March, then you need to increase that. You still have a couple weeks because that won't be forgiven. You have to pay them. Pay them a bonus, pay them some sick time, pay them whatever it is you need to do. Pay them some extra hours if they're not there. It doesn't matter. It's included in the Paycheck Protection Program, so you give money to people you like, your employees, or you give people money to the Small Business Administration. You know. Okay, give money to people you like. Let's look at, go on here, the health insurance, retirement, and state unemployment insurance. According to the instructions, this has to be paid during the covered period. Generally, you pay your unemployment insurance in July. It won't be in your covered period. You need to talk to your payroll provider and get them to pay it early. Pay the whole quarter early. It doesn't matter. Pay your unemployment insurance early to include that in your payroll costs. You need to pay your health insurance and your retirement that you generally pay, I guess, at the end of the month, beginning of next month, whenever it's due. Make sure you pay that early and pay it during your covered period, because we want as many forgivable expenses as possible. There are some other forgivable expenses, mortgage insurance, rent, and utilities, but that can't exceed 25%. And a lot of people are like, proportion. I see a lot of people confusion in this. It doesn't matter. You already have the money. It's already in your checking account. You just need to prove enough expenses so you don't have to pay it back. You don't have to keep the money separate and say, okay, this dollar went to this expense and this dollar went to here and I have it all budgeted out. You don't need to do that. You need to put in the maximum amount of payroll costs you can find to make sure all that's forgiven. The rent, utilities, and whatever is just going to be the makeup that covers it, so you don't have to pay any of your loan back. And the goal here, remember, is to not pay back the loan, not to have some crazy budget where this dollar went here and this dollar. It doesn't matter. Let's just get that loan forgiven so you don't have to pay it back. You're not going to get more if you spend more. Okay, so let's sum up today, things that are really important, and hang on, because I'm going to get to the economic injury disaster loan here at the end. And if you got one of those, stick with me. Okay. Number one, talk to your payroll provider. Make sure that you're paying your unemployment insurance before the end of your covered period. Pay your health insurance and your retirement contributions that you would normally pay before the end of your covered period. Check every single employee to make sure, everybody that's worked for you at all during this 8 weeks, make sure that they're making at least 75% of what they made January to March on a week-by-week basis. Obviously, January to March is 3 months, and this is 2 months. On an average, make sure that they're working as many hours and making as much money. And finally, I really suggest that you get help from an accountant or something, because man, this form is a bear. It really is. It's pretty complicated. Now, if you got an economic injury disaster loan, there's nowhere on the form to subtract that amount out. But originally in the legislation, they said that you can't get both. That if you got the grant, the $10,000 grant or whatever you happen to get based on the number of employees, if you got that grant, that would be part of your Paycheck Protection Program Act. They will not combine it. You cannot double dip. So if you got both, you do have to put that on the top of your application number and the amount you got. And if you got the EIDL, that amount probably, in all likelihood, will not be forgiven. So do you have to pay the grant back? Technically, no. But can you get your entire PPP loan forgiven? No. They're going to take off the amount of that EIDL. Sorry, a lot of people did not know that, and it is on the application. Even though there's nowhere to subtract it, you do have to put the loan application number and the amount you got. That's all I have for you today. Stay tuned for more videos. Subscribe to my channel. Share this video with everybody you know that has small business friends. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more videos on this channel. This is Diane Haggerty, Grassroots Taxes, and I got your back.